Hey everyone, my name's Nick.
And I'm Ray, and today we're going to be going over our top 5 dislikes of Lord of the Rings Ring of Power. Really just things we thought the show could have done better. We're not going to get super nitpicky with it. We're going to try to just talk about what, as a whole, the show failed to do. So, with that, you want to start off with our biggest gripe with the show, Nick?
Yeah, and if anyone has watched our other previous reviews of each of the individual episodes, you'll see that our number one thing that we complain about is the pacing. The
Mm-hmm.
pacing of this season was totally terrible. Too
The,
slow in the beginning, too fast at the end. Just
the pacing just felt really slow at times, but like really fast at others. And it did that consistently throughout the whole show. And
Mhm.
it was crazy because it's one thing to have a slow burn show. You expect a slow burn show if it's consistently slow burn with a scene thrown in one or two for big events. Cool, but this show, like episodes 1 through 3, started off so slow. 4 finally started having the plot moving, and it was going pretty fast for episode 4. But then there was like another 3 episode, 2 episode period where it was just the slowest thing ever with nothing
Mhm.
happening, and then you have another episode come in, and it just blew through everything. Like the finale, that episode just went way too fast through the events of Celebrimbor getting seduced by Sauron, which is what's supposed to happen, essentially.
Right.
It just was kind of too quick. He just shows up and was like, "Oh, hey, I'm healed now. Let's do this stuff. Have you thought of
Yeah.
this?" And he was like, "Whoa, let's do it." You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, they really they missed opportunities because if they would have stretched, specifically because you're talking about that, the Celebrimbor Halbrand, if they would have stretched that out over the course of like another episode or another half an episode, it could have been so much fun and it could have been like a lot more impactful whenever it turns out like, oh, he's been deceiving everyone this entire time.
Yeah, the biggest thing with Sauron, honestly, is so like Halbrand. What I think they should have done with him is really hid the fact that he was Sauron, right? I mean, the signs
Hmm.
started coming up real quickly, and I think they should have done a better job hiding it, um, while keeping some nuggets here and there. But like, you can just tell it was a little too much right off the bat. He's like, "I want to
Hmm.
stay in New Mordor. I don't want to go anywhere," and then immediately 180'd it. It was
Hmm.
like weird. Blacksmith, super good at it. Weird. Not really weird, but Sauron's going to be here. So who is he? Where is he? You're looking.
Hmm.
He's the obvious choice from like episode 2. The pacing as a whole with that, it's that 180 again at the very end, and I think the
Hmm.
story would have benefited a lot from proper pacing of his discovery, and really just pacing of everything that's going on
Yeah.
in the season. Now, for our number 2 big dislike, the writing. The writing and dialogue. There is a tempest in me. Right? I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. You're not going to make that line sound well. I mean, the actors, for the most part, had such a hard job to do. They had to make this dialogue sound good. The
Yeah.
thing with shit dialogue, it's hard to make it sound good. So I think the actors, for what they were given, more or less, did a good job. Um,
Sure. Fine.
but when you have shit to say like "there's a tempest in me" and
I
my
am
God,
good.
yeah, he's the East Star. I am good. It's just you can't
Yeah.
make that shit sound cool or impactful or fucking should have been Sauron, Nori's dad. Oh,
Our
with hearts
hearts
even bigger than our feet.
even bigger than our
Yeah.
feet.
It's like, come
And
on.
yeah, and they tried to do like these little lines that were super memorable and they tried to make them super deep. Like, the first one, whatever Galadriel's brother tells her, like you have to look into the darkness to see the light or something like that. They tried to get super deep with it, but to me it just kind of came off as cringe. Like it was just a little cringe and cliche and just it
Yeah.
didn't feel right.
What they were writing dialogue for, it felt like, was for trailer moments. It's like
Yeah.
literally their biggest lines are in the trailers, right?
Yeah. That's true.
their most impactful lines with like the music swelling and shit at
Hmm.
climaxes, and they just fall short in the context of everything. You know, cool, sure it looks cool in a trailer, but it's a it's a heaping dog turd, dude.
Hmm.
It's a heaping dog turd of a word of a sentence you just said. It felt like high school fan fiction writers writing this, and not
Yes.
like a Brandon Sanderson who pumps out 1 billion words a minute, but he still pumps them out relatively coherently. You're Robert
Yeah.
Jordan, who goes way too much in detail. She was wearing a green dress with like embroidered greenery, and like
Yeah.
2 pages later, you're finally moving on to what her shoes are, you know?
Yep.
Or even, J.R.R. Tolkien. And these writers, it's like me in 8th grade in creative writing, or ninth grade in creative writing, trying to come up with this next big thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make this volcano explode through a series of cleverly dug tunnels and
Yeah.
character foreshadowing and stuff. And then when it happens, show don't tell. I'm gonna show it on the screen. It's now Mordor.
Yeah.
Um, it's just bad writing, writing the story beats, writing the storyboard, and then the dialogue itself. It all just fell short, I thought.
Yeah, for me the big issue was the dialogue. Anytime the characters were like trying to be meaningful, or with the exception of a couple of moments with I think Durin's actor was just he was so good as that character.
Yeah.
I think he pulled it off in a couple of moments. But with the exception of that, I everything else just like it felt wrong. It felt cringe. It just or it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Theo asking his mom to please remember what you used to tell me when I was a kid and had nightmares.
No.
Please tell me that again. Like,
I
come,
don't remember. That was for fucking
yeah,
ever ago. What are you talking about?
yeah. It's like it. Like I said, they just seem like they were. It was like the
Yeah.
I am deep or I am 13 and this is deep. What's that Reddit? Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
it? It's
Yeah.
like that.
Um, yeah. So that's big number two. Now, moving on, number three for us would be character development.
And once again, I just want to say I think that it's overall right. With the exception to this is obviously Elrond and Durin. We've always been giving that storyline praise in our reviews of the episodes, but with the exception of those two, everyone else, their character development just kind of sucked. They,
Yeah.
especially whenever you look at where the end was, they wanted their characters to be so much more developed than they actually were, and they just did the story anyway. So it was really
Yeah.
poorly done.
It was weird, with the exceptions of Durin and Elrond, who I think overall would actually be considered a good development, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a good development, I think.
Yeah.
Adar had so much potential that they started
Mm-hmm.
to like hit, and then it just kind of faded again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Adar, I thought, had some good development going on, but your
I agree.
main characters,
Mm-hmm.
Galadriel, Halbrand, which I mean, does Sauron need character development? I don't know. I mean, he's forever old as well, right? But maybe his character development, in fact, is he was going to heal Middle Earth, and then Galadriel said no. He turned into a born again incel and is now going to raise everything.
That's
Maybe that's what they're going
if
for.
she would have, if she he wasn't lying the whole time. If she actually would have said yes, he would have just been good.
Yeah, he would have said, I am now.
Good.
But as a whole, character development across the board was really weak,
Mm-hmm.
for the Queen, Muriel,
Yep.
for even Elendil. He didn't really have any character development. I mean, he was the same guy, which was
Mm-hmm.
fine. He was the same guy until he wasn't, when he started just ugly, weird crying in a corner,
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, no, I'm fine,
Yeah.
and then was fine the complete next episode. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like he didn't need character development, honestly. Elendil was fine enough as he was.
And I feel like the biggest offender of this character development is the Harfoots, right? They wanted us to care so much more for the relationship between Nori and Gandalf, and I never got there. The whole thing was just
Yeah.
kind of bad. It was all the Harfoots were like the most egregious
Hmm.
ones in this category to me.
They were also by far the dumbest
Hmm.
of the characters, and I think that's a big thing. You think they would have learned, hey, like Nori, don't go touch a magic man when he's magicking,
Hmm.
right? And then she pops out, and it's to big folk who are scary, creepy looking for her. They're just doing dumb thing after dumb thing after dumb thing
Hmm.
after dumb thing, and none of them are learning from it. And
Yep.
even at the end with Sadic's death, okay, finally,
Hmm.
now there's some real there's allowed to be character development there now, like really in that
Hmm.
real sense for Nori and them, because they just had a loved one, die. So
Hmm.
now they're going to be able to play off that. So cool, maybe in the future it'll be better. But they didn't give them anything for the longest time. That
Yeah.
all that character development that was happening felt forced and faked,
Right.
um, and just kind of
And
dumb.
yeah. And on the same note as for the Harfoots, even her friend Poppy, there was a moment where I thought they were going to start to develop her, even just at a surface level, right? Where you see, oh, her whole family was killed in like a landslide or something, a
Mhm.
mudslide. And it just kind of like they threw it out there. She looked real sad for a second, and then that was the end of it, and
Yeah,
nothing ever came of that.
yeah,
And I feel like they just threw that in there for that very end scene where they're saying goodbye, where she's like, "Why does everyone I love leave me?" Like that
yeah.
was the only reason for throwing that in there was so that they could try to have a meaningful goodbye.
Yeah, it's that needed to happen sooner in the
Hmm.
show, and Poppy needed to be like basically living with Nori and Nori's parents, like growing up,
Hmm.
so they would have been a closer bond there. I think that would have been the way to play that. But yeah, character development as a whole was, I mean, super weak.
Yeah.
There
Yep.
were moments of okay, they might be able to do something, but then they would just flounder it most of the time. Now, for big numero four, the fourth biggest thing we didn't like, the use of suspense.
Hmm.
So I don't want to put this in the category of writing and dialogue or character development. I want to put this in its own category because it was so overused to just ruin the story more. It's not like it was a part of the story. Suspense is supposed to be a part of the story,
Hmm.
but they were so mismanaging it and so misusing it that it became just its own element that was browbeating the story into submission. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, and we saw this like so early on. The first one where it was like, why is this even a suspenseful thing? Was the introduction of Numenor. Like they're on the boat. Where are we going? Home. What is this place? I forget what they say
Yeah.
exactly, but they ask like three or four different times with
Yeah.
no answer or just suspenseful dialogue surrounding it. And
Yeah.
then eventually we get Numenor. And it's just like, why? What's the point of it?
Yeah. What bothered me about that, and this is really how it would go in general, right? So, like, with that, you have Galadriel waking up and saying, I'm hungry, right? She starts eating, and she's like, captives or saviors,
Hmm.
and Halbrand's like, oh, just wait and see. And then they come
Yeah.
down and they're like, oh, come on up. And she's like, blah. And they're like, wait and see. And then she asks
Yep.
Elendil, Captain, where are we going? He just like, straight fucking ignores her. And
Hmm.
then Halbrand's like, wait, where are we going? And he's like, home, right? And it's that whole build up there. It
Yeah.
just wasn't needed.
Yeah. And that happens so often. I
Yeah.
mean, that's by no means the only point in the show that this happens, but that's the first and like most egregious one to me.
I think the most egregious one is the fucking volcano.
Yeah, that's true.
Fucking Mount Doom erupts and pyroclastic flow, from what our commenters have written. Now I know what it's called. Burning at 815 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius, per the commenters. I forget. Just fucking rushes everyone,
Mhm.
and they cut it there. They're like, "Oh, are they gonna survive?" And you're like, "In reality, no. In
Yeah,
reality, no. They're all dead. They're all dead as fuck." However, they're not because Galadriel's there, and
right.
they can't
And
die.
exactly, it's a good point for this. This is the suspense with no real
Mhm.
fear of actual consequences.
Where's the
We
wolf? Where's the
we
wolf?
know Yeah, we know people aren't going to die with Galadriel around.
Yeah.
We know Isildur's not dead. Like, there, I have no fear for any of these characters' lives.
Yeah. And that really cheapens what the story is trying to tell.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, you had it with the wolf. The wolf was foreshadowed in what, episode 1. And
barely,
then it comes
but
up
yes.
in episode 6 or something, and Gandalf, not Gandalf at the time, hits him with a fucking Hadouken,
Hmm.
breaks his wrist, you know, fixes that problem like that. They were on screen for all of 5 fucking seconds for a
Yeah,
big trailer moment too. That was in the trailer, right? The wolf.
yeah,
Um,
and even before that, like, yeah, they showed up in episode 1 for literally 2 seconds. We see them, and then they're randomly there
yeah,
in episode, I think it was 5. Yeah,
yeah,
but
um,
still, it's like, yeah, it was dumb.
yeah, yeah. This use of suspense really just weakened the story, character development as a
Hmm.
whole. I think because it really made all of our characters feel invincible by putting them episode after episode against this suspenseful doom, right? This omen
Yeah,
of doom that's going to happen, and then they're just like, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
we got plot armor, dude. We're good.
yeah.
And that moves on to number 5, which aids the suspense issue, aids it in a bad way, and that would be the use of slow motion for me.
Hmm.
I've harped on it a lot because slow motion isn't supposed to be 10% of an episode, 15% of an episode.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be used at very specific key moments to either, evoke more emotional response of a character we know, have known,
Hmm.
and love, or to, just really make something look super dope, right?
Yep.
I think there's 2 moments of slow motion used throughout the series that I thought were good,
Hmm.
acceptable. Aaron Deer's little whoa break shit, that was cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that was cool. And then in that same motion, that chain kick to start off the fight was also
Yep.
cool.
Yeah.
Every
So wait,
other
what?
use of slow mo was fucking trash. The horse slow motion with Galadriel just fucking having the big, she's just geeking out, dude. She's like on fucking mushrooms or
Yes,
something riding a
that was
horse, right?
yes.
The the
So sad for the I feel bad for that actress because of that
yeah,
one. It's like, man, they did her dirty.
they got it from the
That one.
worst fucking angle possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if anybody looks, if everybody has a horrible angle of themselves, and that director was like, get her worst fucking angle with her worst fucking face. Do that, and we're gonna put that in fucking slow motion,
Yep.
just across a beautiful back landscape.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you do that to me, dude? Why would you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. They did her dirty.
Yeah, but like the use of slow mo in that horse scene, the use of slow mo with the Harfoots doing this dance, and it got this real ominous, creepy vibe, and then it just
Yeah.
swapped vibe immediately.
Yeah.
It was
I
like,
think yeah, and that was a really good shot in the beginning.
it
That
was.
like that creepy vibe that it gave out. I was like, what the hell are these orcs doing? And then yeah, it just got all weird and like nobody walks alone. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
It was wasted potential, dude. They could have had that happen and then like had wolves fucking attack or something. It would have been like, that was cool. You know?
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yep.
But that's not to say the slow motion we're shitting on. It's not the cinematography as a whole. It's
Hmm.
the idea to use slow motion as much as they did for scenes that did not need it.
Yeah.
Because it cheapens a lot of the moments.
Now, if I may do a 5A here, right? I agree with you. I think that the slow motion was super terrible. But I just also want to throw in, I think that the budget is also a big issue for this show. And not necessarily having the budget. I think have all the money you want. That's awesome. But them having this, initially, I think by the end of it ended up being almost like $800 million. But in just the beginning, it was like 465 million. That was already insane.
Yep.
So it put the bar for them to succeed so much higher than anything else. Because, for instance, House of the Dragons, what did they have? $20 million an episode, which is still an insane budget for a
Yeah.
TV show. But no one heard anything about it. It wasn't even a big deal. That is not a single factor in that show. But it was such a huge deal, the budget for this season, having like all the articles, oh, biggest budget in TV history. I think it set him up for failure, making that bar have to be so much higher than they were able to do.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, if we look back far enough, right? You remember when Game of Thrones was airing and they're like, "Oh my god, season 8 is 10 million an episode. What?" You know, it was so much money.
Yeah.
And then now we're looking at God, Rings of Power is 800 million for 8 episodes, so that's
Yeah.
100 million
Almost.
an episode.
Mhm. Yep.
Where did it go, dude? Where's my Brad Pitt in this
Yeah.
fucking series then, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Now,
where did that go?
and to be fair, they did, I believe, they had to pay like 200 million for the rights to Rings of Power or
Okay.
to Lord of the Rings to what they got. But even still, that's no excuse.
Yeah, I know a big portion or like the majority of their budget went to VFX, and I will say, you know, which we're coming out with the 5 things Rings of Power did write his video, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't. And I mean, cinematography or not cinematography, sorry, VFX was actually incredibly well done, except for the warg. I'm putting that's 5B. That's 5B. The
5B.
warg was atrocious.
That's a good branch off.
Yeah, but yeah, like that budget just went to waste. I mean,
Yeah.
even with the warg as an example, that warg should have looked so much better instead of the
Yeah.
googly-eyed motherfucker who was looking.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know who greenlit that, but
Let us know what you guys think below. With that, Ray, out.
thanks for watching.